Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and welcome, Fro Nation, to another episode of FroKnowsPhoto RAWtalk. I almost called it RAWtalk FroKnowsPhoto or something, Steven. I almost said it backwards. This week, we've got some photo news. We've got stories to talk about. There were some interesting things that happened this week, some cool older things. I've got a great email from a Fro reader that we're going to break down. There's so many good points in there to talk about. And then at the end, if we have time, we're going to go and fly some solo for you. But I want to let you know that this week there is a code for the FroKnowsPhoto store at store.froknowsphoto.com. If you use code RAWtalk35, I should cross out bad things. Cross out, don't read this one. RAWtalk35, all one word, RAWtalk35, and you use that in the store on anything $14.99 or more, you're going to get 2 free lens cloths. That's like $10 value, Steven. $10 value.
It's a great value.
It is a great value. So speaking of great values, we're going to skip all the other plugs and maybe throw them in later. No, we're not. I want to just say, we just did Nashville. Nashville was great for a boot camp. Chicago is up next on June 15th. Check out FroKnowsPhoto.com/bootcamps for all that information on Chicago. We're looking to fill that up so we can teach and educate you guys in photography. So, Steven, before we jump into your news, I got a gift for you.
Oh, yeah?
I got something at CES. Canon gave it to me, but I couldn't wear it. It's this wristband.
Why couldn't you wear it?
Well, because it says EOS 5D Mark III on it, and it has a lot of Canon.
Very nice.
I thought you would like it because you shoot one of those.
I'm a Canon guy.
You're a Canon guy, and that will look good on your wrist.
I'm going to add it to the collection.
Exactly. I mean, I already have I have 5 on. I've got 4 I shoot RAWs, and I've got my mom's wristband underneath.
Nice. Thank you, sir.
So, you are welcome. Let's get right into photo news with Steven. Brought to you by allenscamera.com.
Heard that.
Yeah, I made that up.
We got some cool things this week. We had a whole bunch of stories. First going, there was behind-the-scenes pictures of President Bush that popped up online because a photographer named Eric Draper put out a book of all the pictures he produced during his 8 years. 8 years.
What's the book's name?
The book's name is Front Row Seat.
See, I'm fascinated by the president's photographers. And I'm actually going to call Eric, right?
Yeah.
Draper?
Eric Draper, yeah.
His phone number's on his website, so I'm calling him later. I want to get him on RAWtalk. I have such a dilemma. The photos are fantastic. It's just the subject matter that throws me off.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to buy that book. I want to buy it as an awesome photo book, but I'm not sure I could sit here and look through it without throwing it in my fireplace to burn it because of the subject matter. I know, I'll lose some readers out there.
Some Republican readers, I'm assuming.
I'm so liberal, it's not even funny. But yeah, the photos are fantastic.
Yeah, they are.
What he captured of the president not working and doing a job is normal.
And it's a hard job. I mean, every day you're working.
You don't know where you're going to be.
Yeah. You're constantly photographing.
Constantly shooting. You're going around the world 8 trillion times. The photos are fantastic. Check it out on Amazon. They have it. Eric Draper, Front Row Seat.
Front Row Seat, yeah. And then just to add to it, I mean, it shows the president being a normal person, like your everyday person. And he's doing everything from like playing tennis to riding his bike in the Oval Office, stuff like that.
Going on vacation.
Being personable. Yeah, it's really cool.
All right, skip this guy. Next.
Next up, that Instagram act we brought up last week has apparently passed in the UK. And critics and UK companies are assuming that changes to the copyright, everything from the copyright material from anywhere in the world without the approval of the copyright holder, they're thinking that pretty much everyone's pictures are going to get ripped off.
It's insane.
Now, what the British law is, the government apparently is saying is that, reading from my notes, the intention is to create a mechanism for old works to be published and made available to the public. So once it becomes feasible to establish the original owner, then they can take that pretty much. So pretty much, for example, if they can't find the original owner or if the original owner's dead, then they're going to send those without copyright to anyone in the world.
Which is a bunch of crap.
They can use it, yeah, for
anything.
anything.
This is a bunch of crap. It really is, because you don't have to do much research to then say that you couldn't find the original photographer.
Yeah.
I mean, and basically they're saying, how do you get away from doing this? How do you not get your photos stolen? You don't put them online.
Yeah.
But if you don't put them online, you're never going to be seen.
Exactly.
It's pretty bad that it's come to that.
They're saying that copyright law is pretty much dead in the UK, which is a shame.
All right, what's next?
Next up, photographer Peter Bellinger, I want to say, Belanger, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but he photographs Apple products, and he posted that behind the scenes video of him doing like a time-lapse video of how he shoots Apple products.
It was the 3GS, I believe, at the time.
3GS, yeah.
By the way, all of these news articles you can find over at FroKnowsPhoto.com/podcast. And throughout the weeks, as Steven starts getting into this more, we're going to be posting the news articles throughout the week and get a separate video of Steven doing the photo news, which is pretty cool because I've seen a demo of it. It's going to be good. So that was an interesting behind the scenes
Very
look.
interesting, yeah.
I think they posted that in like 2009, but for some reason it's just surfacing now.
Yeah, all the websites are posting about it now, and I mean, I've never seen it personally, and I'm obviously all over
I don't
photo
care
news.
how old it is. It was fascinating to see how many lights and stands and reflectors and bounce guards, and then what they did in the computer, just so much stuff.
So much stuff. I mean, I can't imagine how much time and just days it takes to do, for that one picture for the cover and all that kind of stuff. And then moving on, we have, apparently there's old lenses that are radioactive.
Look out, radioactive man. My lens is radioactive. Don't keep that near your mommy and daddy button because you may find yourself not having kids.
Yeah. Camerapedia listed 54 lenses from the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and even some from the 40s that apparently are radioactive. The radioactivity in old camera lenses is mostly due to widespread use of thorium glass elements.
Well, see, thorium glass, let me tell you something about
I don't know much about
glass.
that.
It's like kryptonite to Superman because it's radioactive.
Yeah, right. And thorium oxide is highly refractive and low dispersion, which translates into cheaper high-quality glass by allowing manufacturers to make lenses of lesser curvature, which is why they used it so often.
You have two choices. You can get crappy, you can get more expensive lenses that don't have radioactivity, or you could buy the cheaper ones that are radioactive. You choose. And you know what's funny? Will it ever expose your film is probably a question.
That's true.
How much radioactivity? Did they get into that?
They kind of did. They didn't say much. They said, but if you're close to the lens at all times for more than an hour, like if you're holding your eye up, obviously, to the body and all that, then you might have an effect on it if you do it every day for years and years and years. But they said there's not much of a chance that anything would really happen to you personally.
Wow. And, so that's crazy. And for those who don't know, that up in Eastman Kodak, where's that at? It's Rochester.
In New York.
In Rochester, they had a nuclear reactor up at Kodak. I think they have since shut it down, but they had one there, which is insane.
They actually, bring up Kodak, they said that Kodak had most of the lenses listed on that list. So apparently if you're buying a lens from Kodak that was made in the 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s.
Get out your Geiger counter.
Yeah, I wouldn't invest in something like that.
Yeah, not that old anyway.
It's going to be bad news. Not really news, but still pretty cool. We have a picture book from 1946 surfaced online, which pretty much shows it's called, first of all, Shortcuts to Photo Retouching for Commercial Use, which obviously was before Photoshop, so there's not much you could do, but what they did is they literally painted on. They show you all these pictures and how-to lists of how to edit photos back in the day, and they were showing how you literally use paint brushes to paint on the sky or to burn the sky or whatever it may be.
What's interesting is when I was in college and we were still printing film, Travis Booterball, who was one of my teachers, took a negative, threw a bunch of dust on it, printed a ton of prints, and then we had to spot the dust out of there.
Interesting.
So I kind of failed that assignment. The reason, you know what I said to him? I said, I don't get dust on my prints because I clean my negative, I clean the lens, and I make sure of that because I don't want to learn how to touch this up. I still passed because I talked my way. I still did it. I did a half-assed job because I'm like, why would I? I'm like, I'm not going to get this dust on it. But I guess it was more of an assignment to say, look, don't get dust on your prints because it's so hard to touch it up. We used to get the spotting brushes out, and we had these watercolors that would work on the RC paper. It was pretty insane. And
it was more about the retouching. So the cool thing was they were showing how they literally painted faces. That's why a lot of those pictures,
Photoshop.
Yeah, a lot of those pictures from back in the day, they look like cartoony because they're literally painted.
Yeah.
Where today it looks much more professional. It looks like a photograph.
Sure.
And they were also showing that little tweaks that they had to do, if they shot a picture of a clock or something along those lines, they had to literally paint in those lines if it didn't come out in the picture.
That's insane.
Yeah, just all the little tiny details that went into it. And they had a list of all the old chemicals they would use and the different types of paint. This crazy stuff. It's really cool.
Check that out on the site.
And then moving forward, Conan posted a pretty funny video. It's like an infomercial parody, which was about Ansel Adams. And basically it shows, it's an infomercial parody that they had Ansel Adams, instead of having your cliche photo book or anything like that on your coffee table or countertop, blah, 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 they posted the parody about like changing his book into an audio guide, into an audio book.
An audio book of a photo book.
Exactly. So just to throw off that. And they had, to top it off, actor James Gandolfini from The Sopranos, which has that pretty mean kind of voice, and he's going through it, and he's actually reading off, like describing the pictures and stuff like that in this parody.
So you have that video up on the site?
Yeah, the video's up on the site, and it's funny because he'll go into it and be like, oh, here's a picture that he took, and it's got some curvy roads, maybe some trees, the sky's blue. Like, it's just, it's good. It's funny.
Except the sky wasn't blue because it was probably black and white.
Exactly, yeah. But that was the whole point of it.
Got it.
Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Lion, excuse me. Snoop Lion.
Excuse me.
He don't make Snoop Lion angry.
He launched his own free app. It's a photo app. It's called Snoopify. I'm assuming that goes off Spotify. And he lets users turn their average pictures into a Snoop Lion themed photo.
So it's cartoonish?
Kind of, yeah. And you can post it to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
Well, just wait till I come out with Fro Yourself.
Yeah, you should.
I've been
Froify.
No, Fro Yourself.
Fro Yourself.
I bought froyourself.com.
I think of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days when they're like, frost yourself.
Frost yourself.
But it can be fro yourself.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to download this app. I have no desire to.
I don't either personally, but still some news to throw out there for
Yeah,
you
that's
guys.
interesting. Check it out. Fro Yourself. Snoopify.
Snoopify. It's a good name. Also, almost 1 million images featuring what it was like to be in New York back in like the mid 1800s have been made available to the public for the first time online. It's pretty cool because the city's Department of Records officially announced the debut of the photo database about 2 weeks ago or so. And it's taken from the Municipal Archives collection of more than 2.2 million images, which features about 870,000 photographs of basically city oversight, old bridges.
Yeah, the old bridges
ports.
being built were awesome.
Yeah, it shows everything from them working on the bridges to cars driving across.
And then the
stuff
gangland
like that.
stuff, and then you see this robbery gone bad in an elevator shaft, and the two guys laying at the bottom.
So many cool, interesting pictures.
Yeah, fascinating. Even if you're not a New Yorker, I know that I showed it to Adam, and he loved it.
Oh yeah.
But looking at these images, I just love old world images. There's something about them. They're so pure. They're so real. It was just a different time because you look at 2 million images. Now we've got how many billion, I don't know how many photos are being taken a day, but it's in the hundreds of millions.
Oh, yeah.
If that, so.
And it's funny to see like what they wore back then, the cars that were just starting, off the assembly line, that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
It's a different world back then.
Totally.
And then behind the scenes video and B-roll of the new Star Trek movie hit the web, which is Star Trek Into Darkness. And it was pretty cool because they showed like the lighting of the setup. They showed the cameras they used, which they used an IMAX camera and the Red Epic.
Nice.
So if you're into the video and trying to transfer over to that,
it's cool seeing the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff. So that's another thing that's on the website for you.
All right, and what's there, one more?
That's about it. Well, besides, we have something big to talk about.
The biggest news of the week.
The biggest news of the week, definitely for sure. For those who use Adobe products, the Adobe Creative Cloud has been announced, and they're pretty much stopping the Creative Suite.
So no longer can you buy the software.
Yeah.
It now comes down to you're leasing, you're renting. It's like a car.
Pay as you go.
You pay. Well, yeah, you pay per month.
Mm-hmm.
So you want me to go into this?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's.
Because I wrote a lot of notes. I studied up on this because I wanted to be well educated for this discussion. So basically, Adobe is following in the footsteps of people like Microsoft, and there's a couple of other companies out there who are just doing software that you rent, like Office 360. You rent that. And people are a little angry because they sometimes use the software for 5-10 years, which is a long time to use a software, by the way, without upgrading. Because sometimes the upgrades aren't even that expensive. But if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. The thing is, one of the things they're trying to do is stop people from stealing it.
Pirating, yeah.
Which
was the big
pirating,
issue.
I think my first few copies of Photoshop were pirated because who wanted to spend $800 or who could afford it?
I honestly think all my copies of Photoshop are pirated.
Right. But what?
Not now, of course.
Well, not now, of course. So what they're trying to do, what they're trying to say is that they can put out updates right away. So they don't have to worry about going from CS6 and then you wait a year and a half, 18 months, whatever, to go to CS7. Whenever they have something new come out, they can focus on that and they can just seed it right out, update your software, and it's subscription based. Now, some of the questions that people have, one, how much is it going to cost? If you want the entire Creative Cloud, which is, I think I wrote down 12 different apps. It includes Photoshop, Illustrator, Lightroom, Premiere, InDesign, Flash,
Audition,
there's
assuming.
all of that. Now, for somebody like you who's doing a lot of video editing and you use Photoshop and you use Lightroom, then $50, it's $50 a month.
Yeah.
I'd end up paying for that for you because you're doing a lot of editing for me, but I think we may end up just doing that because then you'll get the newest version of Premiere and you'll have all the updated stuff. For me, in a business situation, $50 a month, yes, it's cost of doing business. But if you just want to get Photoshop, only Photoshop by itself, or Illustrator, or Premiere, just one app, it's $20. It's $19.99 with a year subscription type thing, so you're locked in. And if you don't want to pay by the year, it's $79 a month, which is a ton. So, one, people have asked me what I think about it. That's why we're giving it a lot of time today. I see both sides. It's good and it's weird.
Yeah.
I don't mind a company being forward thinking and starting to try something different. There's always going to be backlash. I think the $20 thing is where people get it with Photoshop. 20, that's 120. What is that? Times 12. It's $120 a year.
Yep.
$240 for the 2-year contract, and that's not bad. But people are saying, well, what happens when I don't rent it anymore? You can't go back and open your files if you don't have the program. The files are still going to work no matter what, Photoshop wise, but you can't go back and open them if you don't have the actual, right? So that's something. Usually, you bought CS4. I'm on CS5. I can still open any Photoshop document because I bought the program. I own that program. Now you don't do that. You lease it. I don't know if I don't think they're going to come out with anything else, but I think that $10 would have been a sweet spot for one thing.
I agree.
But where does it affect photographers? A lot of people are wondering what's going to happen with Lightroom. Lightroom is not going to this model as of yet.
Yeah,
first off, Lightroom's $149. That's not bad to purchase and own it. They dropped the price in half last year, probably knowing that this stuff was coming. It's still part of the Creative Cloud, so if you are part of the $49.99 a month thing, you're going to still get Lightroom. And what they did say, though, is that there will be other features, more advanced features that are built into the Lightroom for Creative Cloud than what you purchase through Lightroom 4 or possibly even Lightroom 5. So that's something to keep in mind.
And I think too, like just going off the price wise, if you're only going to use it for, say, half a year, or if you're doing a little job on the side or something like that, and instead of spending the full $800 or however much it costs for the actual app itself, doing this lease thing isn't that bad.
It's not bad for that, but I mean, you want to have the program.
I agree, but I'm just saying if you're going to use it only for a certain amount of time or a certain period,
right,
or
and then you just get it for the month and then you use it. But who does that as a professional? You go in there. Now, I personally don't go into Photoshop very often. As a photographer, I stay pretty much in Lightroom.
Me too. Yeah.
I don't really go and do the retouching. I know that Adam does it. Juan Patino. A lot of people go into Photoshop to do a lot of touching up. But what Lightroom 5 beta has shown us is that there is a lot of features that are in Photoshop that are now coming to Lightroom. All of the retouching stuff, the getting rid of things in the background, being able to draw a line and have that get rid of somebody's hair because it fills it in. Those are things that are being built into Lightroom. So Lightroom, for photographers who don't go into Photoshop and don't want to spend the money for that, will get these options built in to Lightroom now. So that's something that is pretty good to look at. But I have a whole bunch of notes here. Let's see. People are asking, are the files safe? What if you're offline? So how it works is when they say Creative Cloud, you do not have to be connected to the internet in order to use the software. Now, the first time you use it, you have to download the software.
Yeah.
So you download the full version. Instead of getting it on a disc, you download it from the internet, which is the same thing we do with Apple products now. And you have an ID, so you can download that to any computer as long as you sign in with your ID. The same thing happens now with Creative Cloud. You can sync all of your information, all of your presets and all of your shortcuts, so that when you log into, say, my computer and you want to get into Creative Cloud, you just put in your name and password, and
nice.
all of your presets are there. So that is something that is good.
Very convenient.
So what I read on Scott Kelby's blog, being that he's the go-to Photoshop guy because he's in their pocket, because he runs Photoshop Professionals or whatever it is, he said that it's like 99 days offline if you're not, before you run into an issue with using your software. All you have to do is, if you're online, it's going to download updates, it's going to check, it's going to make sure everything's good to go. So what other notes do I have here? I think it's forward thinking. I personally rarely use Photoshop. Style control. Let's see. Lightroom. You need a balance to do the job. I've used. I don't know what else I'm writing here, but there's. Oh yes, I wrote down here that I may do. Well, I've always thought about what is this called? Subscriptions. People always there's people in my field that do photography subscriptions where they charge you $25 a month to get news and information and education seeded to you, but you have to pay for it. YouTube is looking into the subscription-based model for video. I'd consider doing, if I could do that, and it would afford me to bring in a shooting team, you know, start stepping up the game more like we're doing now, then we could focus in on that. We could focus in on spending a little bit of money because the subscription money is there. Still, FroKnowsPhoto is a free site. I don't see going to a subscription model anytime soon, but those sites are out there.
What would the model like allow you to do for YouTube? Different than what you're doing now.
You're charging a monthly fee. Say it's $5 a month to have access to just this channel.
Okay.
But it's a certain channel. Yeah,
interesting.
It's subscription only content. So I bet you they'll have it where it says only subscribers can watch this video.
Oh, exactly.
So that could be something where
Lock it down to that.
Yeah, I put on the FroKnowsPhoto show and different things, but that's all down the road, just different ideas. So, you know, let's see. Yes. As a photographer, we're kind of in bed with Adobe. You need it.
Yeah.
You can't not have it. I see people talking about, I'll go use somebody else's software. This is a big mistake. Look, a company has to move forward. A company has to adapt with the times. If they're worried about the piracy, which there still will be people that will end up pirating this somehow, some way.
Sure. They're going to figure it out.
Look at the SimCity did this. You have to be connected to SimCity in order to play it.
You mean online? Yeah.
Which was bad. They made a mistake. So this, you don't have to be connected to the internet, but you can download it to any of your computers. So that's better because that multi-license thing only lets you do 2 computers. Now you can download the cloud anywhere, and as long as you log in, you're good to go. So I see why people are up in arms. I think the price is wrong. I think the $20 for Photoshop, that's way too much for somebody who may not need it
all the time.
They're not a professional. They're a beginner. They're an amateur. They just love doing this. That's a lot of money, $20 a month. It's like you got Spotify, you got Netflix, you got Hulu,
everything.
You have Amazon Prime. All of these things are all subscription based. That's where it's going. So they're just getting there now. It's the pricing. $50 a month's a lot of money. $600 a year. The creative suite was what? $1,200 or so?
Something like that.
So
yeah.
it's like 2 years. But the thing is, they're going to be updating it all the time, giving you new software, new stuff, which you could live without because we're sitting here with CS5 still running it without. I don't have creative aware fill, but whatever. That's going to come in Lightroom. I think we should move on from that. But really, I understand why people are upset. There's always going to be people upset with change. I don't think it's terrible for somebody like me to pay for $50 a month to have Premiere, to have Photoshop, to have Illustrator. I don't use Illustrator. I don't use InDesign.
Yeah.
It's a lot, but Premiere is an expensive program to begin with.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I use everything in Adobe. I go from Premiere to After Effects to Adobe Audition for audio, to Photoshop and Lightroom, obviously.
So then for $50 a month,
it would be worth it.
It would be worth it for you. Now it just matters, can you afford that? And
exactly, on top of my million other bills.
Right.
So.
See, that's just what's going on with subscription. So I think we're ready to move on from there and start getting into the rest of the show. I thought that was a major news point.
Definitely.
And we should have hit on it.
For sure.
How far in are we?
We're about 23 minutes,
All right,
24 minutes.
So I'm going to skip over that other thing that I'm not skipping it. I'm talking about it. Just remember that there's a girl. What's her name? What's that girl's name?
Who
I got it right
about?
here. Sabrina Chun. I saw this on A Photo Editor. It's called A Photo Editor, right? That's the website.
Yes.
They pointed out on Kickstarter there's a girl who is taking other people's work, throwing it through Photoshop, turning it into illustrative art, and then selling it. On Kickstarter, she raised $66,000 in a matter of hours. Basically, somebody said that photo looks just like this other photo that somebody took, and it was. She just threw it through Photoshop. And this is bringing up a ton of issues. It happened with the Obama poster back, the photo that was taken. Shepard Ferry, right? Mm-hmm. He did that. Is it art or are you stealing somebody's image? I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think
if you're taking somebody's image and you're changing the illustration or turning it into an illustration, I can see how that's your art, but you started with somebody's thing. I
with
think
a foundation,
It's like music. It's like
That's
Vanilla
true.
Ice, ba-ding, da-da-ding, da-da-ding-ding.
Yeah,
instead of ba-ding, da-da-ding.
That little extra beat.
Da-ding-ding. It was the
Apparently
same song,
different.
Under Pressure.
Yeah.
And you have to basically pay for somebody to do that. I think you should have shared rights at that point. It should be just like licensing, whatever happens in music.
If you're going to sample a beat, you have to pay for it.
I just think
gonna
it's
be the same
horrible.
thing. If you're going to sample a photograph and you're going to make it into something different, You got to use it.
So obviously there's a lot of photographers up in arms about what she's done. And she says that all the other photos are hers, but can you believe that at this point? Basically, she surfed around the internet, found these photos. Imagine if she was in Europe, in the UK, she could just basically say, I couldn't find anybody's information.
That's true.
So now I can use it and make money off of it. I don't want to go any further into that right now. But that's what I've got.
I'm assuming no one's getting compensated photographer-wise. It's only her on the Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah, because it's not really, they're not photos. They became illustrations. She said she talked to the photographer and they worked something out, I think, of the original photo. But she also since, I believe, took that photo down. So that's it, Stephen. Thank you for bringing us that photo news this week.
You're welcome.
All right, I am going to jump into this email. It's a long email that came from a Fro reader. Let me see what his name was because I have it all the way at the end. Let's see. Many thanks, George Dusky Cat. That's what it's from. So I thought it was important to read this email. There's a ton of information in here that I've highlighted, and I just really think there's a lot to learn right here. How's it look, Stephen? Good? I see Stephen looking at me, giving me the thumbs up. Hi, Jared. I'm a pro photographer in the UK, and I'm into my 3rd year running my little business. However, I find myself really, really struggling to get paid work at the moment. In fact, from the beginning of this year, things have been tough. So I just want to read through most of this, and as I get to the important stuff, I'm going to call it out, and we're going to go into it. Last year, I covered a dozen or so weddings, including other paid gigs, but I only have a couple of wedding affairs booked in for later this year. I have employed everything I'm aware of into making my business a success, but I'm becoming... You know what's funny, Stephen? I jump around. I think non-diagnosed ADD. I'm just sitting here reading to the public, and I think back to 1st grade when I was afraid to read in front of people because I couldn't really see the words. So I was slow learning how to read. I know I totally jumped off topic here, but I was slow to. I was always afraid that the teacher would call on me and have me read in front of the class because I was really, really bad at it. They put me in remedial reading, all that bullshit. Remedial reading. I was like, I'm sitting with kids that can't speak, or it was bad. But anyway, I got out of that. I can read now. Sorry, I just had to say that. I've come so far. My mom would be proud that I can sit here and read. Let's see. I've employed everything I'm aware of into making my business a success, but I'm becoming fearful that I could bottom out unless there's a very quick turnaround. I feel I have a good, solid portfolio which covers everything from weddings, families, models, events, and concerts. So I highlighted this point. Why did I highlight this point? Well, if you are looking for weddings or family photos, then you should not have the concerts and events on your website. You need to focus on what it is you are looking for. If you try to focus on everything, you're going to end up with nothing because people aren't going to be sure what you stand for. What is your profession? If you're doing wedding photos, then have a wedding-only website that just focuses in on wedding photos. Get those concert photos off of there. Nobody that's looking for a wedding really is going to hire you because, you took pictures of so-and-so. That's not really what they're looking for. So focus your website just on weddings and family photos because they go hand in hand if that's what you're looking for as a photographer. So yeah, moving on. However, it seems that a lot of people who approach me for work are not willing to spend any realistic amount of money on my services. Several customers backed off when I quoted £600, approximately $1,000, for full wedding coverage. Now, first off, $1,000, there's nothing wrong with $1,000 for a wedding. It's not that much. So if they balked at $1,000, do you really want to be doing these weddings? Do you really want to do a wedding for somebody that's price shopping? I know you've got to make it, and it's very hard to make it as a professional photographer. That's why a lot of people have day jobs and shoot on the side and shoot on the weddings. Even newspaper photographers back in the day, because newspaper photographers barely exist anymore, back in the day, they used to take weddings on the side because their name was seen in the paper all the time, and then they started doing weddings. But, £600 for a wedding, it's pretty inexpensive. That's already cheap enough. So then he goes on and says, I contacted a couple of customers to politely ask them why they had decided not to choose me for their day, and they said they found a cheaper option. Now, first, it's good that you ask them why. It's always good to ask a client, if they don't hire you, why? They don't owe you anything, and you don't owe them anything, so there's no reason to not learn from why they said, no, they didn't hire you. So the answer was, let's see, it pissed me off a bit. that they hadn't even bothered to bargain with me, as I'm pretty flexible and would have tried to meet their budget. Well, when it comes to weddings, ask them what their budget is. Stephen, are you drinking wine? Are you reaching to my liquor cabinet right now? What are you doing? I'm watching Steve. I have a liquor cabinet. It's from my parties. I don't really drink a lot. I've got wine here for my neighbor, in case she comes over. I've got 2 bottles of red for her. She likes white, though. I need to get some bottles of white. Yeah, my neighbor, she's pretty cool. She moved in. She takes photos. She's got a Canon. She has a T3i, but she pulled all her lenses out of the bag, and she's like, I heard this is a good one. It's a 51.4. I'm like, yeah, you got a good lens there. 51.4 is great. So back to this thing. When it comes to the weddings, instead of having, if somebody emails you and goes, what do you cost? I respond back to them with, I actually don't really respond back to them because I don't sit there and give them what I cost. That's none of their business because they're just price shopping. I respond back and say, have you looked at my work? Are you looking for price or are you looking for quality work? If you're just price shopping, I'm not going to work with you anyway because you're not really looking for quality work. I mean, you may look for quality work on the cheap, but we know that we're not going to be in the same ballpark if you're just price shopping. A recommendation for this guy doing weddings, price yourself at a higher point. Price yourself at the $3,000 range, the £2,000 range. Find out where the cheaper photographers are and go above their head. Outshine them on quality, but be more expensive and over-deliver with extras. Second shooter, second photographer coming out with you, maybe even a third. Give them an extra album. Make the pot sweeter. Make it good. But then if somebody comes to you, I hear what you're saying, that you're trying to say that you're flexible. It's great to be flexible with somebody's budget, but you have to ask them first what their budget is to get a ballpark to determine if you are willing to take the job. It's your job to hire the wedding client more so than them to hire you. Sure, we want them to hire us, but you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. So when you find out, oh, we only have 500 pounds or we have 550 pounds, if they say 500, maybe they'll stretch a little bit more and you'd be like, that's close. Here's my package, 550 pounds. And now you're close to that $1,000 point where you wanted to be. But yeah, so that's what I've got there. Price yourself higher. If you want to find the better clientele, you have to price yourself at a higher point. You have to set yourself apart. Would you rather do 40 weddings a year at 600 pounds, or would you rather do 10 weddings a year at 4,000 pounds or 3,000 pounds? Imagine that. Sure, you're shooting less, but you're making a hell of a lot more per gig. Excuse me as I cough. Next page. Every day on Facebook and Gumtree, similar to Craigslist in the US, I see photographers offering ridiculously priced wedding packages charging anything from 150 pounds. Yeah, that doesn't say to wear there. It says as low as 150 pounds. I could never compete with these prices like that, and a lot of folks are just after a good offer rather than great wedding photos. Other potential customers have approached me to do family shots, etc., and they are not willing to part with more than 40 pounds for a shoot. Oy, 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 this is difficult. I know that posting on Craigslist here in the US, you're not going to find the quality customer that you're looking for. If people are searching Craigslist, they're searching for a deal because they want something cheap. That's not what you're supplying them. Do you want to be that cheap photographer, or do you want to be that expensive person that makes deals with people? Like, there's nothing wrong with saying, price yourself high, but see what people's budgets are. They may be willing to stretch if you come across and your work is quality. That goes back to that website, having it focused on just weddings. Another thing is, do not post your wedding prices online. Never put your prices online. You don't want people price shopping, coming around and going, oh, you were too expensive, and not even contacting you. You want to make the connection. If people ask you, how much are you? You say, well, can we get on the phone? I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to tell you what I offer. Please look at my work, and I hope that you're looking at the work more so than price. But if they are just price shopping, then try to find out what their budget is and work with it. I wouldn't be searching Gumtree or Craigslist, and I wouldn't waste my time there. You're not going to get that quality. You're not going to get somebody who's looking to spend $3,000 or 3,000 pounds on a wedding on Craigslist 9 out of 10 times. I could be wrong, but I think I'm pretty much right on that. It seems that the general public completely undervalue photography and are not willing to pay for the service. Well, that's completely true, because everybody today has a camera, and they'll be like, oh, I'll hire my friend who bought this awesome camera. I said it a million times. Somebody can buy a D4 with the Hebrew Trinity and not shoot their way out of a paper bag. You can hand any professional photographer a D3100, a Rebel T3i, and some good glass, and they're going to outshoot anybody any day because they know what they're doing. So I've even had an acquaintance fall out with me. Let me start over. I've even had an acquaintance fall out with me after working on an unpaid photo shoot for his band and putting together a promo video. He was shocked that I asked him for a small friend's fee for the next photo shoot, and now he won't even talk. Well, screw your friend, because that's bullshit. Does he get paid to go and do a gig? Now, I discussed this a little bit with Adam, and I got to get Adam in here to do a raw talk about his Cuba trip. He's looking to come in the next couple weeks, but he brought up some interesting points. I tried to say, well, you know, when you get your car fixed, do you not pay the mechanic? And he's like, well, a car is a necessity. Sometimes photos aren't necessities. Maybe the photography, you can live without it, but a car, you're not going to live without. So sometimes that analogy doesn't work, but I still stand behind it. It's whatever that person does. Does the doctor get paid to make you healthy? I mean, of course, your health is important, but people, you don't go to the supermarket and say, oh, that's too expensive for those apples. I'll pay you half. You're not going to sit there and negotiate pricing on that. But for your friend, you did him a break. You did him a solid. You shot his videos, you shot his photos, and you gave it to him. And then when you asked him for a friend's fee, there's nothing wrong with that. I know a couple weeks ago I was asked what I think about somebody charging a friend to rent gear. I'm not a big fan of that. If it's a close friend, I'm not going to charge them to rent my camera lens. I don't want their $100. I don't want their $50. Buy me a drink. Take me out to dinner. Buy me a pizza. That's fine. You know, people will do that. Don't expect. People will pay you back that way. But for the friend to get upset that you were offering him, you just needed some money, you need to make some money just like they need some money to play their gigs. So that's pretty bad. Last month, I opened a little photography studio in the center of town, and although I'm starting to get some family bookings, I still need to crack into some bigger paid jobs to make it successful. Do you need that rent? Did you need to take that nut on? Every month, you need to pay X amount of dollars to rent that studio, whether somebody's in there and somebody's not. You got to pay for lights. You got to pay for electric. You got to pay for gas. You got to pay for heat. There are so many expenses that come with owning studios or renting studios. Did you need to do that without the clientele? I think today the studio model is not as big as it used to be. I'm sure Steven agrees with that. With all the different studios closing down, do you want to be, I wanted to say this earlier about wedding photography. Do you want to be the Walmart of photography, or do you want to be the like upper echelon shopping store or something like that? Because those are those cheap weddings. I know I jump around. Jump around. Oh, that just made me think of crisscross. Will make you jump. I'm sorry. The guy passed away. He died. He was on drugs. You know what he was doing? He was doing speedballs or whatever that's called. It's like cocaine followed by heroin. I don't advocate doing any of that stuff. That's really bad. But yeah, that's what he died from. Anyway, so you opened up this little boutique photo studio. You're already in trouble. You know, you're not getting those gigs. Opening the studio, how are you getting foot traffic? We're open to the world. We've got more ability to reach people online than we do to reach them walking by your studio, unless you're a very upscale. I even know upscale studios that aren't doing well. They're just not getting the prices they used to get 10 years ago. It just doesn't happen. So they have to adapt with the times. Here's my recommendation. If you need a studio to shoot, rent it. Then all you're on the hook for is renting the studio for that day or for that weekend. You don't have to put out that weekly nut. Plus, you build it into your cost of doing the photos. Build in an extra couple bucks to do the studio rental. That's fine. So we've got that. I utilize Facebook on a daily basis to promote my work and offers. I do the same on Gumtree a few times a month. Okay, so before I jump into that, on Facebook, stop selling. Start telling. Like I've said before, tell stories. It's about stories, and keep telling those stories instead of always offering people something. Stop being like, oh, here's a deal. Get your wedding photos taken or get your portraits taken. Stop putting that crap out. People don't care. It's like I get yelled at if I say, oh, there's a deal of the day. By the way, speaking of deal of the day, don't forget RAWtalk35 in the store. If you use that code at store.FroKnowsPhoto.com on an object, something worth $14.99 or more, we're giving you 2 free lens cloths. That's $10 value. That was a good segue for me, by the way. So stop making these offers. Start doing photo shoots. And I said this last week, or maybe I said this at Antonelli to the students. everything you put out there or everything you take becomes a story on your website. Show the story of the day with the family. Instagram behind the scenes photos. Photographers are on Instagram. Other people are on Instagram. Then on Facebook, when you post the story of who you photographed, people are going to tag themselves. They're going to share it. They're going to see something real, and they're going to contact you after that to say, oh, I loved what you did there. Do you have this? It's okay to throw an offer out every once in a while. A holiday's coming up, and be like, oh, holiday's coming up. I'll shoot. I'll do this. I'll do that. But I wouldn't advertise on Gumtree because you're going to get that type of client. That's the Walmart type client. Do they have Walmarts overseas? I don't know. Probably. Walmart's all around the world. And I'm not disrespecting anybody that shops at Walmart, by the way. I'm just saying that Walmart is meant on the cheaper side. You don't want to be seen as that Walmart photographer drinking water here. Water. As we move on. See, this is a great email. There's so much information to go into. I attend a couple of wedding fairs every year. However, they are very expensive and are always oversaturated with other photographers. Example, 20% of exhibitors would be photographers. Okay, so I've done wedding fairs. A couple years back before I started the website, and then about the first year into the website, I was booking wedding fairs. I found a good, reputable wedding fair company that was expensive. Remember that, Walmart versus the more expensive thing. Why would I spend $100 to go to a wedding fair that's open to 500 vendors that could have 50 photographers when I was spending $600 an event? That's right, $600 to do a wedding fair. It's a 2 or 3 hour event, but what is it doing? It's putting me in front of 150 to 250 or more targeted clients. How long would it take you online to get 200 people to email you about a wedding? So that is why I like wedding fairs. I got 6 weddings off of one of those fairs. I think I booked some weddings after I booked 2 weddings a week after I left the wedding fair. I did a great job of selling. I had my cameras with me just to look professional. It was just for looks. I had my Black Rapid on. I had my cameras by my hip so that people saw me with professional gear, and I keep spitting all over the poker table and into the pop filter. Because it's part of that perception. You want people to perceive you as a professional. And that was what I did there. So when you're looking for a proper event show to do, ask them, how many photographers do you let in? If they do not limit the amount of photographers, do not do their wedding fair. I would not go. This one wedding fair had 5 photographers. That's it. We would allow 5 photographers and then nobody else. So you had to get in on it. I don't mind 5 photographers because 2 of them are shitty, all-encompassing ones that do video, photos, tuxes, and limos, and music. They're not going to be competing with me. So you just need to sell yourself. But to get in front of 150 to 250 brides and grooms, usually brides because the grooms don't really hang out, is insane. And then I would give everybody hair picks. I'd have mints on the table so that they remembered me. I had postcards. It's marketing yourself. So I think those are good that you do those. They are expensive, but do your research and pick the right ones. Pick them in the right cities, the cities with more affluent people. I did one that was in a lower end area and it didn't work out too well because people were price shopping. But I picked the ones at a country club. Yes, the country club one only may have had 80 or 90 people there, but it's a country club. They have to pay a lot of money to be a part of it, so they have money. So smartly pick the locations to do these. I've done well at them, and then I've also not done well at them, so it's a crapshoot. One year at the same location, I did 600. The next year, I did less, but this was during the downturn of the economy, and I think it's all coming back, so I think people are willing to spend the money. Okay, a couple more paragraphs here, and then we get to flying solo. However, it seems there's always someone out there willing to work for free or charge pennies. And the couple of people who I know who do this are not the worst photographers, excuse me, are not the worst photographers around. They're selling themselves short as well as damaging others' businesses. There's not much you can do about that other than look for better clients, look for the higher end clients like I've said before. And then it goes into this. I highlighted this. Also, Groupon are daily posting crazy photo shoot deals, such as 1 hour family photo shoot, only £9.99. What do you guys call them? Pence? Cents? They're not cents. 99 kroners? No. £9.99. £1.99. How about that? No. £9.99 is what they said. I remember that. Price includes images on disc and a framed print as well as a complimentary glass of wine and chocolates? Hello? One, are you going to sell yourself that short and charge $9.99 for your time? What are you going to get out of somebody who's paying you $9.99? Do you think you're going to get more jobs? You just spent more money because it's not a 1 hour photo shoot. It's a 1 hour photo shoot. Then it's travel. Then it's editing. Then it's printing. Then it's buying the frame. Then it's giving them the work. Then it's buying a glass of wine. I don't know where that came from. And then it's buying some chocolates. I don't get that. I'm not putting a Groupon deal out. I don't want to put a Groupon deal out. Why would I do that? And why would you do that? That's the Walmart mentality. Price yourself higher. Be the expensive person on the block. So, yeah, I'm going to move past that, and we're going to move into the last angle of this. But that's just insane. Let's see. I've been in contact with some of the salespeople from Groupon who say that photographers are so desperate that they're giving the company 90 to 100% of their commissions to Groupon, as they're so desperate to get people in through the door, hoping for return business. Personally, I wouldn't sell myself out to Groupon yet. Don't do that. I have a great little studio, great gear, and I'm happy with how my photography is constantly improving. All I need are customers. What am I doing wrong? So we got to the what am I doing wrong all throughout this. I don't think you're per se doing anything wrong. It's just you're not doing everything perfect. But nobody is doing everything perfect. It's an iterative process, as Ari would say. Ari listening, yeah, iterative process. He wouldn't say that. That's coming from somebody else in the past in the corporate world. But I think we answered those questions pretty well. Just don't sell yourself short. You got to make a way, and not everybody's going to make it. I don't know that it's the right thing to open up a studio and charge and pay that money if you're not getting those gigs. If you need a meeting place, you got a Starbucks on every corner. You can rent a place and go from there. So we did that. Steven, what time are we at so I know? 48 minutes. Okay, I'm drinking water, Steven. Oh, for those of you who are wondering, Ari is at home. Ari is working on other projects that we are in the midst of doing. So he's producing those. He's in full control of that. That's why Steven's here helping us out on this and with photo news and doing the audio here. So we'll move through as many of these flying solo portions as possible. I hope you guys enjoyed this. The change in the RAWtalk, the news, we've got this email that came in that was great to talk about. Don't forget that you can download the RAWtalk on iTunes, Stitcher. You can listen to the MP3. You can download that from my website. Please subscribe on iTunes, as that's where you can automatically get sent the new episodes as they go live on the Mondays that they go live at noon. You can get that for yourself. So thank you guys for watching. Oh, and also watch the multi-angle madness that we do each week, trying to step up the game, keeping it moving up higher so you guys can enjoy watching this. Watch it on YouTube. Watch it on FroKnowsPhoto.com/podcasts. And all of the stories and everything that we talked about before with Steven, you can get over at FroKnowsPhoto.com/podcasts. And keep an eye out each day, well, not every day, but a few days during the week as Steven starts to crank out the photo news and the photo news videos. I think we're going to release them, Saturdays or something? I think that would be a good day to do that. Barry Porter, if you could shoot with any camera, past or present, what would it be? I'm going to go way to the past. I want to use one of those 4x5, I forget what they're called, pony. They're not called ponies. They're not called horses. I forget what they're called. The old stereographic, not stereographic, they're 4x5 cameras that the sports photographers used to use in the 20s and 30s. And they used to carry around the plates that would go in the back. I would love to shoot something like that. The wide lux camera that, what's his name, Jeff Bridges uses. I looked up some information on how that thing works. That is fascinating. I'd love to try a wide lux, except they're $2,000. They basically what they shoot is a panoramic. Well, they're old. They f-stop. There's no focus. It's like an infinite. It's like f8. But what happens is the film plane, as the shutter thing moves, it's exposing just a little piece of the film each time. So it's cool. So things can change by the time the shutter gets from one end to the other. Jeffrey Lloyd, how was your Nashville experience? Nashville experience was great. Adam and I flew into Nashville on a Friday. We hung out with some people. We went to the bars down on Broadway. I bought boots. I love my boots. And we had the boot camp on Saturday, which was fantastic. We had a bunch of people there learning. We had our youngest member yet, Peter Newsom, did a fantastic job. He found himself in a lot of pictures because we do, at these boot camps, we do a lot of hands-on learning. We did group type shots. Everybody wants to know how to do groups. So we basically set up as everybody's a band. And we did a band, and Peter was the lead singer. It was Peter and the Shadow People. And then it was Peter and the Puff the Magic Dragons were the background singers. And you could see that these photos, you can see up on Facebook the photo of me that Peter took, which was pretty cool. But speaking of that, we've got the boot camp coming up in Chicago next on June 15th. Please sign up for that. It's a great learning experience. And if you need some testimonials there, everything that's on there at FroKnowsPhoto.com/bootcamps, please sign up for that if you can soon. We need to get a few more people or we're going to have to cancel it. And then that means we're not doing a free Frodo walk the day after because we won't be coming to Chicago if that happens. But check out the rest of the tour dates. There's 7 more left. FroKnowsPhoto.com/bootcamps. So it was fun. Hans Haberkorn. You don't crop, but do you use lens correction? Because even the great lenses produce color fringe, vignetting, and distortion. And this correction crops a photo a little bit. I rarely use lens correction. I found that it does crop, and that's what I didn't like. And 9 times out of 10, nobody's going to really know the difference between a lens-corrected image and a non-lens-corrected image. I've done it with the 14mm to see what happens. Sometimes it looks okay, and sometimes it doesn't. I think it's a flavor of the month. It's the taste of the week. What is the flavor of the day? Flavor of the month, taste of the week, and what's the one of the day? I don't know. I don't even know if there is one of the... No, soup of the day. Thank you, Stephen. So I really don't do it. I don't see a lot of color fringing in the pro lenses, so I don't really do it. Andrea Currents, if offered the position as president's photographer, but no fro allowed, would you take the job or keep the fro? It's a good question. If I can keep my hair down, I'd keep it down and I wouldn't fro it out. I don't think they'd have a problem with it. But if you're really saying between shaved head and fro, I'd shave my head to be the president's photographer. How would you not do that? I mean, that is an incredible job to partake in. And yes, the hair is not that important that I wouldn't go ahead and cut my hair to be the president's photographer. Good question, though. David Weisstruck. Could you please tell the story behind the Leica camera that you just received? I have a few old cameras that I've inherited or bought and so on and so forth. What's the story behind your uncle's Leica that he gave you? So I got this Leica DRP. It's the 3C or whatever they call it, the IIC. I looked it up online. The dates tell me that it's from 1940. So this is the story of the Leica. It was my Uncle Sam's. So it was my grandfather's brother, older brother. Uncle Sam, he died when he was 92. I think it was like 10 years ago at this point, maybe less. But Uncle Sam was this awesome guy. I believe he picked it up during the war in Germany. He picked up the camera, purchased it there and brought it back. And it sat in a drawer ever since. And then after he passed away, my other uncle, my grandfather's brother, said, you know, I was a photographer, and he's like, do you know what this is? So I did some research. Obviously, it's Leica. It says it right on there. I don't know what it's worth, but it's the sentimental value. So he kept and he held on to it. And then I had my grandfather and my uncle in, or my grandfather's brother in, to sit on the sofa and tell the story of their life. Because it's important to record our families, to understand the stories and where they grew up and memories that they have. So I did this for an hour, and I kind of had a premonition the day before that when he comes over, he is going to bring me over that camera. And he did. He brought me over that camera and said, here's a housewarming gift. It's a bag of rocks, is what he said when he handed me the bag. But I knew what it was. Before he even when he handed it to me, I knew what it was. And I told him, I said, yesterday I kind of had a feeling that you were bringing me this camera. Don't ask me, I must be clairvoyant or something, but that is the story. I'm going to run film through it. It's as clean can be. I'm pretty sure it still works. The shutter still moves. I'm going to learn how to use it, and I'm going to try to shoot for the Fro Film Project. All right, couple more, and then we're wrapping it up. Caspian Sharad. I like that name. Jared, if the D4S or X does come out next year, what will you expect from it? So D4S, I'm expecting November because that becomes 2 years since the D4. I think you may see an update. I'm thinking same sensor, getting rid of the XQD card, going back to 2 compact flash cards. I mean, do they really need to update the camera? I don't think they do, but I think they're going to come up with something. I really don't know what to say. I don't want more megapixels. Go back to 12 megapixels of my D3 and D3S. I was happy with that. Now I'm at, 16? It's still fine. better low light capability, better ISO, better dynamic range. That's what you get as these cameras get better. So that's what I would expect to see. And part of the 2013 predictions, I went ahead and said that I think you'll see by the end of the year an announcement of a new D4. Alex Slade, if you could design one lens for Nikon, what would your Fro lens be? That's a fantastic question. I mean, we got 200 f2 already. I mean, a lot of people would say I'd want a 14 to 300 2.8 zoom, but that would be the size of this poker table. So realistically speaking, it would be cool to have, say, a 24 to 200 2.8. Or, yeah, 24 to 200 2.8. I think they could maybe pull that off. It would be a little big, but zoom lenses aren't always as sharp, but the 70 to 200 2.8 is amazing. Imagine if they could pull out a 24 to 200 2.8 in the same package that it's already in. That would be pretty fascinating. Other than that, I don't know what else I would say I would want to carry around. Maybe a zoom 1.8. Just, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to stick with 24 to 200. I'm drinking water. Darren Altman, have you ever used autofocus fine-tuning with your D3 or D4 for different lenses? No. I feel that the pro bodies, if you need to fine-tune, there's something wrong with it. And same with the lenses. If they're wrong and they're off, I don't want to have to go and make that tweak in the camera. I just think that that's a sign of there's an issue with it. Personally, that's my feeling. I'd rather send it back to Nikon and send the body back and send the lens back and have them touch it up. Have them make sure that it's better. Have them make sure that it's back to factory standards. That's what I rather do than worry about fine-tuning in the camera. That's my feeling. Zach Trusty, how do you go from taking photos as a hobby to making a career out of it with a business and everything? Did I really put this question here? Because that is I can't tell you what to do. I mean, listen to what I said earlier in the podcast. That may be some of the best information that you can get, but I can't tell you how to turn your hobby into a profession. One way is to just start charging people. You have to turn it into a business. You need some kind of business sense to make it. You need to know what you're doing. I mean, it's very hard for me to tell you in detail how you can be successful, because I may not be successful at certain things. You may be better at other things, so you have to be successful at your own, finding your way as a photographer. Edgar David Photographia. How did you get so good at making videos? I think he wanted to say I watched. I watched a video you posted that you said was one of the first you did. You had a Nikon shirt and you were talking about your lenses. Night and day compared to what you have now. How do you practice or learn to be good in front of the camera? I am normally really good to teach, but for some reason I suck when the camera is on. So the video he's referring to, if you search the Fro website, I believe it's 1000th video. If you look up 1000th video post, there's a video that I did in 2007 or 2008 where I just sit down with my Nikon shirt on and I try to show all of the lenses I have for Nikon and talk about it. But all you hear me do is go, damn, shit, I messed up. And I kept messing up. I sounded horrible. I didn't know what to do. So how did I become good at this? I sat down in front of the camera and I blocked out the pad. I blocked everything out. I blocked out everything in my mind and just went for it. Now, I didn't start there. When I first started, like Ari and I tried this thing called Leisure Suit Jared. I would walk around with a leisure suit on. I would jump up in a tree and I would do a video from the tree. We did once where we did 26 takes and I didn't get it right at all. It was 26 takes and I couldn't remember what to say. But that was the problem. I was trying to remember what to say instead of just feeling the moment. Now I can sit here for an hour and just spit this information out because I let go. It's funny, I do these dance videos, but sometimes when I go out in public, I'm shy in the corner. I'm shy in the corner because, one, the people don't know me, and two, it's just, I don't want to share those moves with them. I don't think they could handle me on the dance floor. But no, I mean, it's just, I don't know, I get subconscious of what people are thinking. So if you block that out, if you don't worry about it, I'll tell you another thing. I think one of my changing points in life was when I was in Israel. It had nothing to do with being in Israel. It just so happened that we were at a Bedouin dinner, at a Bedouin tent. There were 800 people there, or I don't know how many there were, and they had belly dancers dancing on the stage, and my job was to be the photographer for Maccabi Games, the Jewish Olympics in Israel, and I was sitting there taking pictures of all these people, and then there were these belly dancers, and they were all flapping around stage doing this, and there's video of it. There is video of this, by the way. I got to find it for you, and there's photos too. But what happened next is I felt like dancing. And because I felt like dancing, I took my shirt up, jumped up on the stage, took my shirt off, jumped up on the stage and started dancing with the belly dancers. Now, I was a terrible dancer. Then I found a little bit of rhythm. Not much, but I've become a better dancer. But I got in front of 400 or 500 people right there with my shirt off before I had these guns and just danced with these belly dancers. The guy who hired me said, maybe you shouldn't be part of the show. You're just the photographer. And I guess I was like, screw that. I'm part of the show now. And I think up on that stage, what I realized is because there were lights shining in my face, I didn't see anybody. So if you just block out the fact that other people are out there, for the most part, and you still want to connect with people, but if you just block it out a little bit and just say, I'm just dancing alone, nobody's here, that's how I did it. That was a changing point in my life. I just got up on stage. I had an idea. I wanted to jump up there and dance. I felt like dancing. I did it. I surprised myself, and everybody was like, that was insane. You're crazy. But they laughed. They liked it. And I think that was part of me changing and starting to understand this new direction, where I wanted to go. And it's okay to be out in front of people and just own it. If you're going to do something, own it. So I sit down in front of the camera. Even if you look at the first videos when I launched the website, I used to do my intro. It was, excuse me, it was Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto. And that was Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. And then I changed it to Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto. And that's as you get more comfortable. Just get in front of the camera and spit the information. If you make a mistake, keep going. Do not worry about that happening. Do not worry about any issues because you don't have to worry about it. Just sit down there, forget the world is watching, spit out the information. If you make a mistake, own it, keep going, get done, and move on from there. And that, my friends, is FroKnowsPhoto Raw Talk episode 35 for this week. I thank you guys very much for listening, watching, downloading, participating. Don't forget about the code just for you people who listen here. It's RAWtalk35, all one word, for the store. Get 2 free lens cloths on objects on your order of $14.99 or more. I want to thank allenscamera.com for being the sponsor of the FroKnowsPhoto Raw Talk, as well as the new sponsor for Steven's Photo News. Thank you, Steven, for popping up with that photo news. You can find all of the photo news and more over on FroKnowsPhoto.com/podcast. There is a tag. We're going to add this to the front page where Steven's Photo News is going to be, so you can see all of the news articles as they happen. We're going to try to get more of those up each week so that we can keep the topical photo news going and give you guys something else to read on the website other than looking at my mug nonstop making other types of videos. So we have that coming to the site. BBO poker table, sitting at this table. Thanks to Drobo. Going to have some contests running very soon. Don't forget about the photo of the month contest. The theme right now is reflections. You have until the 17th to get those posted, the 17th of May. And the prize this month is a $300 bag from Think Tank. It's actually worth more than that. It's an Airport International. You guys get to vote on the winner. Somebody's going to win that. And there you guys have it. Thank you very much for listening. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.